Welcome to Cheery Conversations, where we all overcome our uncertainties on juicy topics, one conversation at a time. Each week we sit down with author, speaker, and pastor Sonny Hennessy and a special guest. This week our guest is VandeHei. She's born and raised right here in the 920 and married her high school sweetheart Jake. They have 2 kiddos, ages 1 and 2. She's the founder and CEO of a boutique digital marketing agency, Pro Digital, and she's the co-founder of the Nest Co-work and Club. Alex, you have accomplished a lot, and I've really been looking forward to this conversation because you have this new, different kind of accomplishment, and I think it's the cheeriest. So why don't you tell our listeners and our viewers about this new journey that you've been on?
Yeah, so I started coming to Life Church a few months ago, actually probably like 6 months to a year ago. And it's been an incredible journey just getting to know Pastor Sonny and Pastor Sean and God and Jesus. And I've not ever let him in my life before. So it's been fun and it's been a journey. So it's been a lot to overcome and think through and determine what I believe in and how I believe in it and how to let him in my life.
Do you think that people who have been in your life for a long time have noticed that something is different, or have noticed that you have this new thing in your life?
Yeah, I mean, when I go to church every Sunday, it's like, oh, you're going to church now. And I never went to church before. I was born and raised Catholic, but we didn't really practice. I got confirmed when I was, I don't even know what age.
The age.
I went to CCD for a short time, and then we never went again. And my parents didn't raise us religious. And so when I started going to church again, and going to Life Church, I think my friends and family might have just looked at me like, why is she going to church? She never believed in God. She never was a practicing Christian or practicing Catholic, and who is she today?
Mm-hmm. And now your hubby comes, which I remember you telling me. I think you were coming, and what was it you said to me? You said, now the next step is to get...
Yes. Yeah, so I came and I just loved it. I fell in love with Pastor Sean's messages and everything that you guys represent and stand for, and I just knew I wanted Jake to come and see it too, because I think that regardless of his beliefs or what it is, I thought that he would get something out of the message.
Mm. And so he's been coming with you now.
Yeah, if
most
I
of the
come,
time.
he comes.
Yeah, which is so cool.
Yeah.
And you guys
kids
come in with your kids and you're all smiling, and I love it.
And the kids love it. And, Ella goes to the little baby classroom and Chase goes to the 2-year-olds. And he was hesitant at first when he'd go in by himself, but now he loves coming to church.
Aww.
And on the nights before church, he's like, are we going to church tomorrow? And so if we do miss it, he notices.
Oh, that's so cool. At 2.
At 2. Yeah.
So what would you say has been the hardest part about, especially when it comes to other people? Like, they can say, oh, you're going to church now? Do you get any additional feedback or negative feedback?
No.
Okay.
No. I never get negative feedback, but I think especially with some of my family members who are not so into God at all, they're like, okay, what is she going on a kooky journey for?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or just those, and they've never verbally said anything to me, but it's just that preconceived thought process that I'm making it be.
Yeah. Well, a lot of times I think we do. I've noticed there's people who have come to Life Church and they'll check in on Facebook, or they'll say, oh, they'll share something from Life Church, and people will start to comment below like, oh, I was going to check that place out, or I've heard about that. And they're shocked. I will have people that will come to me and say, I was shocked to see that when I posted about Life Church, or that I checked in, that these people from high school, or these people I never would have expected, were asking, could they come and sit with me? I wonder how many preconceived ideas we make up. Yes. Or we just have, there is the little angel devil cartoon, but the devil's sitting on her shoulder going, oh, they actually are judging you and think you're weird. Or are they wrapped up in their own stuff, and actually they might be open to coming to church themselves, but you never expected it, right?
Yeah, because nobody wants to be the first to admit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or think through, like, you don't want to be the one to put it out there first. And you want them, if you know they're okay, at least for me, I feel like it's easier for me to talk about it if I know they're into it too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Otherwise, I don't know if they're judging me.
Yeah.
And that's my own.
Well, and there's been a lot of crazy that's gone on. I mean, we here call ourselves Jesus people. I call myself a Jesus girl, not a Christian. And it's not that I'm not a Christ follower, Christian, but we call ourselves Jesus people because there are religions now that are not focused on Jesus and God. They're weird and they are off base. They're not biblical. And there's a couple campaigns in other religions that they're calling themselves Christians and they are not Christ followers, but they think that that'll like pull people in. And if anything, it just makes it worse. Or we've seen the weird stuff on TV, or I've watched the Scientology or the documentaries on cults. And I think that we know enough weird that we assume people think we're a cult, we're weird.
Yeah.
And what was your first impression when you came into Life Church, like even just walking in the lobby?
Oh, it's so inviting. It's so inviting, and everybody's so excited to be there and chipper and happy, and like you can't even walk into a mall and feel like that. So I think that was one of the biggest reasons that I wanted to be in this community, is because of the community.
Yeah.
And it is obviously life-changing just how people are living out their lives that come here. So it made me want to come.
Yeah. Well, and we also are not like a cult where we said, okay, now shut off your family. Anybody who doesn't think or believe like you, because that's one sign of a cult. And I don't know why I'm getting onto cults. Although I watched Leah Remini of the Scientology, I'm like, oh my gosh. Like they literally said, you need to call your biological family and be done. And I was like, people do that? But I think that the devil would like that concept to bleed over, where people suspect even a church is saying, come and be a part of our community, and then say bye to everybody who doesn't think and believe like us. And we're more like open door, open arms. And for sure, don't cut off your family, your friends. In fact, just be like Jesus in the community, in your family, at family reunions. Suddenly you're not engaging in the arguments that you used to, not you, but some people, they acted a certain way in their family, and suddenly the change is they're more peaceful and kind and controlled. And then the family goes, must be something going on in her.
Right.
So I think that's the way to win your family.
Right.
Yeah. And some of your family does come here.
Yes.
Your mom.
Yeah, my mom. She's the one who's been like pulling me along to come.
Cool.
And she's been a huge part of my Jesus journey. So
Oh, that's great.
She's amazing. And you're going to cry a little about her. Your mom is incredible. She's a great woman.
Yeah.
That's great. I liked when you guys were talking about the lobby a little bit. I had heard this. I won't say what the percentage is because I don't know. But it was a large percentage that in any church that, like, let's just say it's like 90% of people will decide if they're going to stay at a church or come back before they even sit in the auditorium, before they even hear worship, before they even hear the pastor. It's all about the environment they walk into. Yeah. And so I love that your first response was, it was so inviting, because that's how a place that is supposed to represent Jesus, it should be like anyone should be able to walk in and say they felt welcome. So I love that you talk about that. We're going to take a quick break, but stay tuned, because we're going to come back to this conversation and talk more about this journey that Alex is on.
Are you feeling discouraged? Do you need the emotional chaos to stop? Are you experiencing negative dialogue in your mind and in your life? Do you feel like you've tried everything and aren't seeing results? Journey to Wholeness can help. We believe that anyone can find wholeness in Jesus. Journey to Wholeness is a 12-week program designed to equip you to face life's challenges by providing practical tools and biblical truth to help you spiritually, emotionally, and relationally as you walk out your Jesus journey. Course content is presented in a group setting and includes pastoral and professional video-based teachings, in-class applications, and group discussion so that you can gain the tools and strength you need to live a life of wholeness no matter what comes your way. Groups are facilitated by people just like you and will help you apply the content to your personal journeys. Groups meet weekly and sessions are 90 minutes. Childcare is provided during select evenings. Become one of the hundreds who have found Jesus-centered wholeness through this proven course. Now is the perfect time to start your journey to confidence, strength, and peace in your life. Sign up for Journey to Wholeness today.
Welcome back. We're here with Alex and Sonny, and we've been talking about this new journey that Alex is on, this new Jesus journey. And so, Alex, why don't you say something to our listeners and our viewers? Tell them, being new to this Jesus thing, being new to a church environment, which can be scary for some people, what are some of the things that you're still working through and learning?
Yeah, so every week I come to church and I'm like, I don't know what they're talking about. The Bible, this passage, that proverb, this, that, the other thing. And I'm, it's a lot to take in. I've never read the Bible before. I'm trying to dabble in it. So how do you,
I love that.
What do you tell?
I'm dabbling in the Bible. That's so good.
I don't know what yeah, exactly.
Well, I think that this is important, and I will relay this to Sean because he's always done this, and I think it's important we always do that. We don't just say, Paul said, because we always think, Paul, is he the guy at the parking lot that helped me? Like Paul said, but Paul, who wrote in the New Testament, St. Paul, some know him as. So then it's he wrote, and really I think taking the Christianese out of it, we've tried to do that. So that when you're learning, and what I would say to anybody who's listening or watching is that when you're learning the Bible, everyone's learning it. And don't, again, let like fear and doubt get in your head to go, I should know this. No, we're teaching it because most people in the room don't know it. And for sure at Life Church, our goal is to unpack and teach scripture that hasn't been viewed that way. We're not just going to tell, oh, David and Goliath and 3 stones and, you can kill something with 3 stones. Like, well, okay, I learned that in Sunday school, or I never learned that, but like, what's the deeper meaning? And so I think it's important that and anybody knows who steps in the foot of Life Church or another church, that everybody's learning it. There's things I hear and I'm like, I should know that by now, or things I've preached on that I've thought, how did I never catch that before? Okay. And I might be preaching this thinking this is a new revelation, but I wonder if there's people who also have never heard it this way before. So we really teach through that lens. Yeah. You shouldn't. If you walked in here and was like, yeah, I've heard that. Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah, I've heard that. Exactly that way. Then that might be a place that you're not growing anyway.
Okay. That makes sense.
You're in Bright.
Yes.
Talk about how that has helped, because I think what's cool is that you said, I want to learn this Jesus thing. And then you said, I'm going to put some feet to that. I'm not just going to say, well, Sunday morning and I'm good.
Right. So Bright has been great because I hear you in season talking every morning and giving us something that's practical, that it's not only about the Bible and it's not only about Jesus, and it is, but it all relates back and I can apply it to my life. So I've been wondering how to get into the Bible even more. And so I'm thinking about joining a life group as well.
Yay! And this lady likes that. She's like, life group pastor.
Yeah.
It really does take it to a new level.
Yeah, you just get connected with people who are often in the same season and spot that you're in, that just want to learn more, or they're new to the church, they don't know anyone. And so a life group is really first and foremost about connecting with other people. And then as you build those relationships, when they're relationships that are built on also getting to know Jesus more, it's a great way to go deep with people. So,
and I love that the studies, it's even a life group, they would focus on one book of the Bible. Like, you can't in 6 weeks go through the whole Bible. I feel like in my whole lifetime, I won't really have learned the Bible until I've got 80 years in.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so I don't think that I just know it all because I went to Bible college and I've been doing this for 20 years and I was a Christian quasi before. It's a constant learning, and that's why I think the Bible is so awesome, because it's like that novel or that piece of literature that you want to unpack, but then you figure it out in class and in college and you move on. The Bible is so deep and rich that you do study the same book for the rest of your life.
Okay.
Yeah, so take that pressure off.
So what would you start with as getting into the Bible? What chapter would you start, or what?
I think the book of John is a great start. So in the New Testament, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, I think John's a great start for the first. Okay. Because it is about Jesus, but just the way in which it's written is awesome. I also think that the Message Bible helps people when they're like the these and thous. Although, people shouldn't start with King James. Okay. Or New King James. It's King James. It sounds like thus thou, English, British. Like, no, don't start there. So the Message, or, you know, the New Living, or the NIV. So some of those versions, but John is a great one.
Okay.
And then I love Proverbs a day, because frankly, even a book of the Bible can be overwhelming. But what about one section in the book of Proverbs?
Okay.
Then it's Proverbs 1 on day 1 of May, and Proverbs 2 on day 2, because it says a whole lot. You're going to learn a whole lot. And then the next month you go, whew, I didn't even catch that the first time through. So John or Proverbs, and Proverbs is in the Old Testament. So that's nice to be in that.
Okay.
And then John in the New Testament.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love that question about, like, well, where would I start?
Yeah.
Or what tools, what other things could new Jesus people, or people who really just want to go deeper in their walk, what are other things that can maybe go along with the Bible they're reading? Like, what are other tools or things they can use?
I'm so glad you asked, and I wish we were sponsored by the Bible Project, because I talk about it so much. The Bible Project, it's an app or it's a website, and they create videos.
Okay.
And they'll just seamlessly, and through picture, because it's art and it's video and it appeals to the eye, but then they're talking you through it. They can show you how Jesus ties from Genesis, the first book of the Bible in the Old Testament, all the way through the end of the Bible in the New Testament, after he came, died, and rose again. And they'll teach you that, and you didn't know that about that part of the Bible, and I get to see it. And it's like a cartoon, but it's for sure a cartoon for adults.
Okay.
It's for sure something that as adults, sometimes I have to watch one 4-minute video 5 times, because I'm like, there's so much there. But then when I go to read my Bible, it's way more interesting. So I think the Bible Project's incredible. And the YouVersion app on our phone, I have today Romans 3, Romans 4, and Romans 5. I push play, and the guy on the ESV version of my Bible, YouVersion Bible app, read to me as I did my makeup. And then I would tune out as I was like, I'm mascara and life, and I'm not thinking about what he's saying. And then he says something, and I'm gonna rewind. And yeah, I did. I went from 5, I went back to 3, and then I heard it, and then I highlighted it, all while I was putting my makeup on. So it doesn't always have to be like, go kneel on your knees with the Bible, open it, and hate every moment of your boring Bible reading. Like, no, I mix it up all the time.
So that allows it to be in, like, layman's terms.
Yes.
Okay.
For sure.
Yes, for sure.
Okay.
That's so good.
Great questions.
You had another really good question that I want you to ask Sonny, and it was about, believe. I'm sure as a new Jesus person in church, you hear stories and things where you're like, really? Like, a guy gets eaten by a big fish? Like, I mean, there are things that are like, how does that work? And so ask this question you have for Sonny about maybe some of the things that you hear in church and believing them.
Yeah, so I guess I'm just curious, like, being a new Jesus person, it's hard to just believe everything.
Yeah.
So I'm curious for you, when did you start believing everything? Or did you just believe in God right away? Or how did that come to fruition?
At 5 years old, my dad told me about Jesus, because up until that time, my parents didn't go to church. It wasn't part of our life, but my parents got separated, and my mom and dad were going to divorce. So my dad ran to his sister, my Aunt Judy, and said, I need help. And she's going, all your life, I've been your big sister trying to tell you about God, trying to tell you about Jesus, but you didn't want to have anything to do with it. But now at your lowest point, so I'm so grateful he had a low point, I'm going to share with Jesus with you again. And she lovingly shared it with my dad. My dad gave his life to Jesus, didn't know what that was going to look like, but he knew he needed something. Then he shared Jesus with me while my parents were separated, when the weekend I was with him. And I accepted Jesus. And it was that I watched my dad want something so bad, and it was all to rescue our family. And that, just as a 5-year-old, spoke to me like, this must be a pretty big deal if my dad thinks this will work. And then my parents just walked it out. For my dad started teaching Bible studies not long after.
Wow.
And I mean, he just went all in, and now he just operates where you can tell he's like Jesus. But that was the turning point for him, which was the turning point for me. Then I loved Jesus even when I was dumb in high school, and I did dumb. I still love Jesus, and I felt really guilty. But do I think I just believed because somebody told me to. No, I saw a change in my dad. And the proof for me is change in people. And even I think about our church. I think Life Church, it's going to be known by its fruit. If we're growing, we're joyful, we're healthy, we're strong, we're reaching out, and we're acting like Jesus is, that's the fruit of a tree that is doing well. That's how it proves God to me. When I look at people's lives who are struggling and suffering and hurting, but they don't believe in God. In fact, they hate him. They will stand up and shout about how he is not real and he's terrible and he killed my mom, he killed my child, and we blame God. Those people are not joyful. They are not having any fruit. In fact, they're hurting and they're actually shriveling up and dying. And that proves to me that the answer is God. So it's looking at people. Now, when that person will say, okay, maybe there is a devil, and maybe he's the one who killed my mom, who, was a part of all the hurt, and they start putting the blame on the devil rather than God, it starts to soften them, and then God can come in. Do I have all the answers? Do I not question the Jonah and the whale? I'm like, I would like to go to a marine biologist and say, what could hold a living room in the belly of a fish that a man could save? For sure, I want to know that. But I also know that there are certain books of the Bible that they were written verbatim the way the story went, like Jesus and his death. There's historical evidence. Even scientists would say, well, we don't believe Jesus was the savior, but he was a man. He died here. National Geographic actually proved where he was laid into a tomb just recently. So there's those kind of things, and then there's Jonah and the whale. But the way, if you study literature, and this is what theologians and Pastor Sean and I are supposed to do, is to dig deeper, and the Bible Project does this well, to say this work of literature was kind of like Shakespeare, because you can tell, or this was a poetry book.
Okay.
It's poetic. They're not really saying that I love my wife because she looks like a deer. It's poetic. It's not literal. She didn't look like a deer, but it's because it's this metaphorically written book, whereas this book was a historical book. And the Bible is separated in those ways. So Jonah, I'm still a little confused, but Jonah may have just been, they assumed he got swallowed by a whale because he was headed that way, and then he got lost at sea, and then he showed up. Like, that doesn't have to be that maybe he literally was swallowed by a whale. But I'm waiting for a marine biologist to prove that.
Awesome. That's an awesome question, because I know people will ask that. They think that those people, those of us that have been walking the Jesus journey for a while, like, oh, you just always believed.
You drank the Kool-Aid and you've just never questioned.
Exactly.
Sean questions all the time. Like, there are new stars and new, like, there's black matter and there's all this stuff. The galaxy is larger than they've ever seen before. Like, that makes us wonder. Yeah. In fact, there was this great untheological but amazing book and movie called The Shack. And in the moment of where, I don't know, it was one part of the movie and you saw the stars. And Sean and I looked at each other and we said, do you think the reason they keep discovering more stars and more galaxies is because when our souls go to heaven, like, each star represents each soul? Like, we don't know, but like, we can wonder, we can ask, and it could be really cool if that's the answer. That doesn't determine whether I need to live and love Jesus. That's just cool, and yes, I wonder.
Okay.
Yeah, I love that.
That helps so much.
Yeah, I love that so much. I love having you on this show because there are so many people in your exact same position who are either really new to the Jesus thing or to a church, or maybe they're just thinking about checking the Jesus thing out or checking out a church like Life Church or any church. So what would you say to someone like that who is listening or watching right now, and maybe they had a bad church experience? Maybe they had a not great experience with someone who claimed to be a Christian. What would you say to that person who is just like, I'm just not sure if walking down that path is worth it, getting to know Jesus is worth it?
Well, I can tell you that we've been in full-time ministry for how many years? 19. And there was a time where I think both of us thought, we've been at these churches, some good, some not great, and Christians bug us. Like, wow, like they're judgmental, they rage on Facebook, they rant, they can't say anything to somebody's face, but they can be super opinionated and backbiting and gossipy. And we're like, really, is this what it's all about? And halfway through our ministry, I think we both thought, do we just want to go into a career and know that we love Jesus, but we don't want to be around Christians? That we walked that road. And for 3 years, we were not pastors ourselves in the middle of our 19 years of ministry. And when we did come to Pastor Life Church, we determined we want to have a church we would want to attend, and we want a church that points to Jesus and that represents him the right way. And what happened is now we're pastoring the largest church we ever were on staff at or pastored. And I think it's because we determined we're going to cut the crap and we're going to cut the negativity. And yes, we address things, like we're not just passive, but my goodness, we have misrepresented Jesus. And so what I would say to people who have been burned is, I get it. And still in our city, in America, in the world, people in your life, there are Christians that are wearing that and not acting like Jesus, and don't judge that. Actually, it's so crazy. In Romans 3 today, it said, what if, it's so crazy, I listened to this today, and this is the one I rewound and I re-highlighted. It said, if people mess it up, it was talking about the Jews, if the Jews, the Gentiles, if those who say, back then they would have been considered the Jews, the chosen people, whereas we could say the Christians. So say a Christian says, this is who I am and how God is, but they mess up. Romans 3 said, do you hold that against God? And it said, for sure don't hold it against God, because people mess up, because God is right and true and good, but people will mess up. And that was just the little bit today, and that's exactly what we're talking about.
That's so good.
I love that. I love that. Thank you so
Yes,
much
thank you.
for sharing your story. And to our listeners and viewers, this conversation isn't about a specific church
Right.
or a specific religion. This conversation is about relationship, and that's with Jesus and how to get to know him better. And so that you know there are people that are on the same journey, have the same questions that you have. And so we're going to have some links in the comments to help you out, YouVersion, the Bible Project, like Pastor Sonny talked about. So we'll have that available to you. We are so glad you joined us today in this conversation.
I would love to connect with you directly. You can go to my website, sonnyhennessy.com. Maybe you can let me know what cheery conversation or what guest you'd like to see on our next episode.
So join us next week at the same time for another cheery conversation.